Hi, hello students. Welcome to Indian Tech Guru for you. So let us move on to the next topic. The next topic is control unit. Control unit. So in the previous class, we discussed about several different types of instructions and how to represent those instructions in the instruction format. However, to apply these instructions, so as well as to recognize a particular instruction, so that is let it be memory reference instruction, let it be register reference instruction or input output instruction. So we need to have some control mechanism. So then only it is possible to recognize a particular instruction as well as to decode the instruction. So for that purpose, the computer system will have the control unit. So control unit is nothing but it is going to generate some control signals. So to process the processor registers, so as well as to decode the instructions, to perform the operations. So it is going to provide some control signals. So however, how to produce these control signals is very crucial, because based on these control signals itself, the particular operation will be carried out. So in computer system, we can provide these control signals in two different ways. So they are hardwired control. The second option is microprogrammed control. Microprogrammed control. Hardwired control means we are going to provide hardware. We are going to provide hardware. So what is meant by hardware? Hardware is nothing but sequential as well as combinational circuits. We are going to implement sequential and combinational circuits to generate the control signals. If you are going to use sequential or combinational circuits to generate the control signals, then it is called as hardwired control. Hardwired control. So already we have discussed that. So we are going to implement the sequential as well as combinational circuits to provide various operations, memory transactions. So now the same sequential and combinational circuits shall be used for controlling those operations. So and there will be separate hardware mechanism, so which is going to provide this control mechanism. So which is actually placed inside of the entire computer system. So then it is called as hardwired control. The second option is we can have a control program. We can have a control program which is stored in control memory. So based on which the control mechanism will be carried out. So using the control signals. Okay. The control program is going to generate the control signals, and this control program will be stored in control memory. Okay. So like a software program, we have a control program, so which is a micro program, and this will be stored in control memory, and this control program is going to provide the control signals. So simply, if you want to bifurcate, so hardwired control is going to utilize hardware, microprogrammed control is going to utilize software. So here there will be hardwired mechanism, here there will be program mechanism. Okay, so both are valid and implemented, so according to the choice of the computer manufacturer. So either they can use the hardwired control or they can use the microprogrammed control. So first let us consider the hardwired control. Hardwired control. So if you see the mechanism of the hardwired control, then the control unit of the basic computer will look like this. Here we are going to use two decoders. So this is one decoder and this is another decoder. Already we have seen the instruction format for instruction register. So from 0 to 11, it is going to represent the address. From 12 to 14, it is going to represent the opcode. The 15th bit, it will be representing the indirect mode address. If I is equal to 0, then it represents the direct address. If I is equal to 1, then it represents the indirect address. So these things we discussed in the previous class. So this is how we are going to represent the instruction register. Now what we are going to do is we are going to decode the instruction register based on the control mechanism. So to provide the control mechanism, we should have one more decoder. So the input for the decoder is a 4-bit sequence counter. 4-bit sequence counter. So this is the input for the decoder, and here we are going to use a 4/16 decoder. 4/16 decoder. That is, we are going to provide 4 inputs, and we are going to generate 16 different outputs. Similarly, here we are going to use 3/8 decoder. What does it mean? We are going to use 3 inputs and 8 different outputs. So here the outputs are named as D0 to D7. Okay. Outputs are named as D0 to D7. Here the outputs are named as T0 to T15. T0 to T15. Okay. So these outputs of T0 to T15 are the actual control mechanism, based on which the particular operation is carried out. Okay. So for each and every timing signal, T0, T1, T2 and so on, so we are going to generate clock pulses. So these clock pulses are generated by the processor. So based on these clock pulses, the operation is to be carried out. Any operation or a combination of operations will be carried out during one clock pulse. Within one clock pulse, we need to complete either one particular operation, or a combination of different operations. Okay. So now based on the address, based on the decoder output D0 to D7, based on the decoder output T0 to T15. So we are passing all this information to the combinational control logic. So here actually we are going to implement the control mechanism. So this is actually the hardwired control. This is actually called the hardwired control. So in this hardwired control, we are going to use several sequential and combinational circuits to actually provide the control mechanism. So in addition to these inputs, we may provide some other inputs also according to the necessity. So based on all these inputs, to the combinational control logic, it is going to generate the control signals. And based on these control signals, a particular operation will be carried out in a controlled fashion. Okay. So the very important thing here we need to remember is, so based on the control signals only, we are going to perform any particular operation. Okay, that is very important. So this circuit is very important. This circuit is a timing and control circuit, and here you can see the inputs for the 4-bit sequence counter: increment, clear and clock pulse. So increment operation is going to perform the sequence counter increment. Okay, it is going to increment the sequence counter, SC assignment SC plus 1. Increment the sequence counter. Clear is going to perform the clear the sequence counter. These two operations are performed in the 4-bit sequence counter. So based on the clock pulse, based on the clock pulse. So here we need to remember one particular logic which is very important. So what is that logic is, who are going to generate the clock pulses? Who are going to generate the clock pulses? The clock pulses are going to be generated by the processor, and based on these clock pulses, any operations are carried out. For example, assume I need to perform a read operation. So to perform this read operation, in general, the read operation will be performed in microseconds. Assume like that I am going to perform the read operation in microseconds. However, because the clock pulses are generated by the processor, they will be in nanoseconds. So however, we are saying that any operation must be completed within a single clock pulse. So because this clock pulse is in nanoseconds and this read operation is in microseconds, so sometimes it may not be possible to complete the read operation within the given clock pulse. Then what happens? Then actually the clock pulse will be in a waiting state until unless the read operation is completed. Okay, so the clock pulse will be in waiting state until unless the read operation is completed, because it needs to complete the read operation within clock pulse. So then it is going to wait even for microseconds also, even for milliseconds also. So because it needs to complete the operation, that is our criteria. So however, so here for simplicity, what we assume is whatever the operation we are going to consider, so that will be completed within a single clock pulse. Okay, we will assume like that for simplicity. All operations shall be completed in a clock pulse. Okay, so like that we are going to assume. Actually, if it is not like that, so if the operation is not completed, then the clock pulse will be waited. So it is going to wait until unless the operation is completed. Okay, that's the basic logic we need to remember. So this is the overall circuit design of timing and control logic. Based on this timing and control logic, so let us consider a particular scenario. What is that scenario is? Clock pulse T0, T1, T2, T3, T4 are generated. So actually we have seen that the clock pulses are generated from T0 to T15, because the output of the 4/16 decoder is 16 different possibilities. So from T0 to T15 is there. However, we are making a condition that after T4, so we are going to perform the clear sequence counter. Okay, so when we are going to perform this particular operation is whenever the value of D3 is high. That is, whenever the output D3 is active. Then what we are going to perform? We are going to perform the clear operation. So what is meant by clear operation? The sequence counter is once again assigned to 0. Initially it will be 0. Now once again we are going to assign it to 0. So let us see how this particular operation is carried out. So here we can see the clock which is going to generate pulses. So T0, T1, T2, T3, T4. So these clock pulses are generated. Clock pulses are keep on generated like this. However, so during each clock pulse, which operation need to be performed? Which operation need to be performed is very, very important. Assume that the T0 signal is generated, and in the first clock cycle, T0 operation has been completed, and in the second clock pulse, T1 operation is completed, and in the third clock pulse, T2 operation is completed, and in the fourth clock pulse, T3 operation is completed, and in the fifth clock pulse, T4 operation is going on. So during this fifth clock pulse, so D3 is active. D3 is active. D3 is active means D3 value is high. So because D3 value is high, so based on the D3 value and the T4 value, so what we need to do, we need to make the sequence counter to be cleared. That is, it must become 0. Okay. So in which timing we need to make SC to 0? In timing T4, and when D3 is high. So this particular sequence line will represent D3 is high. D3 is high, and whenever D3 is high and T4, we need to perform the clear sequence counter. So now the SC will once again become 0. So after the completion of T4, so what operation will be generated? Once again, T0 is generated. Clock pulse T0 is generated. Okay. So here you can see the next clock pulse will be assigned to T0. Okay. So why this happened? This happened because we are giving a condition like that. What is that condition? D3, T4. Whenever D3 is high and during T4, make SC assignment 0. If this condition is not there, for the control circuit, then after T4, T5 will come, T6, T7 and so on up to T15. After T15, T0 will come. However, by giving a control signal to the control logic unit, what we are making? We are making the sequence counter to reset to 0 based on the D3 and T4 values. So like that the timing signals will work. So if this is not the case, then so actually the timing signals will be continued from T0 to T15, and after T15 T0 will come. Okay. So don't think that always this is a fixed statement. This is not a fixed statement. So you can make SC clear to 0 during D3, during D6, D3, T7 also, D3, T7 also. Then, so whenever D3 is high and T7, during T7, we are going to reset the sequence counter to 0. This is only one particular assumption. Okay. So like that we can have any control signal at any time, so which is going to perform the sequence counter clear to 0. So if you do not specify any logic, then by default the sequence counter will be incremented each and every time. Okay. So it will be incremented each and every time. So like that we are going to perform the timing and control operations and perform a specific operation. So next concept is instruction cycle. So instruction cycle means Generally, we have a set of instructions. A set of instructions is called a program. Okay. So if I write a C program, then it contains some lines of code. And these lines of code will be executed in a sequential fashion. Initially, the first instruction will be executed, then second instruction, third instruction, fourth instruction, fifth instruction, until unless there is a alter. What is that particular alteration? Either we may encounter a control statement or we may encounter a function. So then only the sequential execution will be altered. Okay, otherwise it will be executed in a sequential fashion. So like that the instructions also will be executed in a sequential fashion. Okay, first execute the first instruction, second instruction, third instruction, fourth instruction, like that. All these instructions will be stored in memory. Okay, the instructions that are stored in the memory will be fetched to the processor registers, and then they will be executed in a sequential fashion. Okay, that is the case. So how these instructions are fetched and executed? So what is the instruction cycle? We need to know that particular instruction cycle. Okay, for each and every instruction. So this is the basic starting address of the instruction. Assume this is the starting address of the instruction. Always the starting address of the instruction is represented by PC, program counter. Initially the program counter will have the address of the starting instruction. After fetching the first instruction, the address of the starting instruction will be incremented. PC will be incremented with PC plus 1. Okay. So like that the operation is carried out. So as far as the instruction cycle is concerned, step number 1 is fetch an instruction from main memory. So we are going to fetch the instruction from the main memory. And step number 2, decode the instruction and calculate effective address. After fetching, decode the instruction and calculate the effective address. So this is very, very important. So calculating the effective address means the address may be either direct address or indirect address, as we have seen previously. So if it is a direct address, then we can read the instruction directly from the main memory. For example, if the value is residing in 0xFA2, so this is the effective address, direct address. Then what we are going to do is in the main memory search for the address 0xFA2 and whatever the value here, for example here 450 value is there, so fetch that value. Okay, so however, step number 3, read the effective address from memory if the instruction has an indirect address. So however, if the address is indirect address, so such as 0xF48 something like that, so then 0xF48 will not contain the value. It will contain one more address. What is that address? 0xFA2, something like that. So then we need to fetch the value from 0xFA2. Then we need to change this particular indirect address into effective address. Okay. So after changing the indirect address into effective address, we need to fetch the operand as usual. And finally execute the instruction. This is the instruction cycle. Fetch the instruction, decode the instruction, and calculate the effective address. So read the effective address from memory if the instruction has an indirect address, and then fetch the operand, execute the instruction. Okay, these are the 4 different operations we need to perform for the instruction cycle. So after the instruction is executed, so assume that for a particular instruction, so the instruction cycle is completed. Then again the cycle starts from step number 1 for the next instruction. Okay, so after the execution of the first instruction, so PC will be incremented to PC plus 1. Then once again the second instruction will be executed. So like this, this instruction cycle will keep on executed. We'll keep on executing the instructions one by one. Okay. So now let us implement these operations in register transfer language. So at time t0, already I said that the first instruction address will be stored in PC. Okay, the first instruction address will be stored in program counter. However, we cannot fetch the memory location using the PC. Here you can see there is no direct connection from PC to memory unit. So that is why what we need to do, we need to move the program counter value to the address register, memory address register. Okay, so that is the first operation we need to perform. So AR assignment PC or MAR assignment PC. So this is the first instruction. This first instruction shall be completed at time t0. And what is the condition for first instruction? S0, S1, S2 is equal to 0, 1, 0. We have already seen the condition, the selection inputs for memory bus during the memory bus explanation. So based on this value, so it is going to perform the operation. What is that operation? Move the content of PC to AR. So what is the content of PC? Address of the first instruction. So what is AR? Address register, which is going to contain any address. Okay, any address related to the main memory. Now it contains the address. So when we are going to perform this operation, whenever t0 is equal to 1. So at t1, what we need to perform? We need to fetch the instruction from the memory and store it in instruction register. Okay. So now based on the value in address register, we are going to fetch the instruction from the memory unit and place this instruction in the memory bus through the memory bus load this instruction into instruction register. So this is the operation. In addition to that, what we need to do, so based on this particular instruction, this particular operation, the fetching is completed. So after the fetching is completed, what you need to do, you need to increment the PC. Otherwise what happens? It will always fetch the first instruction itself. So that is why, in addition to accessing the content from the memory and assigning to instruction register, we need to increment the program counter also. Okay. So for this particular operation, for memory read operation, what is the value for selection inputs? We have already seen in the previous classes, 1, 1, 1. And when it should be performed? Whenever t1 is equal to 1. So now you can observe that at time t1, how many operations are performed? 2 operations are performed. So what does it mean? At a particular clock pulse, we can execute more than one operation also. So at time t1, we are performing 2 operations. What are those 2 operations? Read the content from the memory and store in instruction register and increment the program counter. So at time t2, so what we need to do is we need to decode the instruction register. So already we have seen that the instruction register may contain different types of instructions. So let it be a memory reference instruction or register reference instruction or input output instruction. So we need to determine whether it is a memory reference instruction or register reference instruction or input output instruction based on the values of opcode, based on the values of address, based on the value of register I. So that is why based on all these values, so we are going to determine the values of D0 to D7. So based on the values of D0 to D7, we will determine what type of instruction it is. What type of instruction it is. So in this particular diagram, we are not showing T2. Okay, we are not showing T2. So in this diagram, we are showing the transactions for T0 as well as T1. So during T0, what happens? The content of PC will be moved to AR. During T1, what happens? Two operations are performed. So what are those two operations? Increment the PC value. This is one operation. Another operation. So move based on the address of the AR. Based on the address of the AR, fetch the instruction from the memory and store the instruction, load the instruction in the instruction register that we have seen here. Okay, load, as well as perform the read operation. So fetching is nothing but read operation. So perform the read operation as well as load the instruction from the memory bus to the instruction register. Two different operations are performed. This is one operation, this is another operation. Okay, at time T1. So only these two operations are shown in this particular circuit diagram. So T2, fetching the T2, decoding the instruction register is not shown in this particular diagram. So decoding is shown in this diagram. Determine the type of the instruction. So initially at time T0, what we did, we have moved the content of PC to address register, and at time T1, what we did, we have read the instruction from the memory and stored in instruction register, as well as we have incremented the program counter. At time T2, what we did, previously we have not seen this one. So based on the values of operation code as well as the address as well as the I bit, we need to determine whether it is a register reference instruction or memory reference instruction or input output instruction. So that is determined based on the value of D7. Based on the value of D7. So already in the previous class we have seen how to determine the type of the instruction. So based on the value of D7 itself, we are going to find the type of the instruction. So if D7 is equal to 0, if D7 is equal to 0, always the operation is memory reference instruction. Memory reference instruction. Okay. So in case of memory reference instruction, based on the I bit, if I bit is equal to 0, then nothing is done. If I bit is 1, so then we can actually perform the operation, read operation, M of AR assignment AR. M of AR assignment AR. Okay. So that is we are moving the indirect address to effective address. We are moving the indirect address to effective address. If I is equal to 0, already the AR contains the effective address. So we are not going to perform any operation because already the address contains the effective address. Okay. So once now the AR contains the effective address, so what we are going to do, execute a memory reference instruction, and after executing the memory reference instruction, set the sequence counter to 0. Okay. So this entire thing is for memory reference instruction. Memory reference instruction. So based on the value of D7, how we are going to determine it is a memory reference instruction? I have explained in the previous lessons. So if you have not listened those lessons, go to the previous lesson and listen those lessons. Next, coming to this part, if D7 is equal to 1, then there is a chance of the instruction may be either register reference instruction or input output instruction. So that is based on the I value. If I value is equal to 0, then it represents the register reference instruction. If I value is equal to 1, then it represents the input output instruction. So if I value is equal to 0, then the starting value will be 7. If I value is equal to 1, then the starting hexadecimal value will be F. So that also we have seen in the previous classes. So if you could not remember, once again go to the previous classes and listen to those that class and then come back. Okay. So based on these values, we can determine whether the given instruction is input output instruction or register reference instruction. So if it is a register reference instruction, then execute the register reference instruction and set the sequence counter to 0. If it is input output instruction, and execute the input output instruction and set the sequence counter to 0. Okay. Now, so based on the value of D7IT3, so we can determine the particular operation. If D7 dash, that is if I is equal to 1, if D7 dash, so and I value and T3 value, what we are going to perform this particular operation. Okay. So here D7 dash means D7 is equal to 0, I means 1, I value 1, and at time T3, we are going to perform this operation, AR assignment M of AR. So what is this operation? This operation is nothing but finding the effective address, from indirect address. So when we are going to perform? During 0, 1, T3. If this is the operation, so what is this operation? 0, 0, T3. So if D7 is 0 and I is 0, then already the effective address is there in this particular address, IR of 0 to 11. Already effective address we know. So that is why we need not perform any operation, do nothing. If this is the case, that is D7 1, I dash 0, D7 1, I dash 0, then execute a register reference instruction, this operation. Similarly, if D7 1, I 1 at time T3, then execute the input output instruction. So like this we are going to decode the instruction. So this is the decoding flow chart. So how we are going to perform the decoding operation. Now if you see the basic computer instructions which we have discussed in the previous class, so you will get more clarity based on the, now map the flow chart with this particular data. Okay. So what we are going to map based on the I value. If I is equal to 0 and if I is equal to 1. If I is equal to 0 and if I is equal to 1, then it will become 0, 0, 0, 0. Here this 0 is hexadecimal. This 0 is hexadecimal. That is why this 0 is equivalent to 0, 0, 0, 0. So that is the bits from 12 to 14, 12, 13, 14 will be all zeros. Okay, you need to look into that. And if I is equal to 1, then the value will be 1000. Okay, so you need to look into that. The bits from 12 to, based on the bits from 12 to 14, we are going to get different values. So this is the initial value 8. 1000 means 8. The second operation will be 0001. Then it will be 1. Here 1001. Then it will be 9. Like that we are going to apply. However, here you can see that 7 is not there. Here F is not there, because those two are reserved for register reference instructions as well as input output instructions. So how would we get 7? We get 7 if 12 to 14 bits are made as 111. So this 111 bits are reserved for register reference instructions. So 0111 means I is equal to 0 and bits 12 to 14 are going to represent 111. So it represents that always the starting instruction, the hexadecimal code, starting hexadecimal code is 7, always 7. So based on the other hexadecimal values, the register reference instructions will be defined. Similarly, if I is equal to 1, then 12 to 14 values are 111. Then the starting hexadecimal code will be always F. Based on the other hexadecimal code values, we are going to define the input output operations. Okay. So the same logic we have shown in the flowchart. How to decode the instruction register and determine whether it is a memory reference instruction, register reference instruction, or input output instruction. So that based on the instruction, we are going to execute a specific instruction. After the execution of the specific instruction, we are going to set the sequence counter to 0. So that's all about the today's class. In the next class, we will be discussing elaborately. So based on the decoding, how these instructions will be identified and executed. That's all for now.